What's up, Tackle Warehouse fans? Jake here with this week's episode of What's New at TW. We've getting out of our ICAST season, but some stuff is trickling into stock, and it's kind of those dog days of summer right now. August can be an absolute brutal month to fish, depending on where you're at in the country. But we've got some cool things that maybe get you excited to get back out on the water and try out this season. So first up, let's talk about a new color. This is a new Tackle Warehouse exclusive color through Strike King, and we're calling it the no-brainer. And if you know anything about Tackle Warehouse exclusive colors, you probably could have guessed it. It's a mixture of green, pumpkin, and black and blue. We've done similar colors like this with so many brands, and we're super stoked that Strike King gave us the opportunity to bring this color to their lineup in a bunch of different baits. So like the Menace Grub, the Rage Bug, the little Cutter Worm, the Blade Minnow, which is my favorite vibrating jig trailer out there on the market, but a bunch of different baits that we have it in this new color called the No-Brainer. So if you've never checked it out, does really well in dirty water, clean water, just a great all-around color that we're super pumped about that Strike King added to their lineup for us. All right, let's talk about some frogs. Now is a great time to be out there throwing frogs, a lot of cheese matted vegetation around. And this one from Gan Craft, I'm for sure gonna mess the name up. It's called like the DANGOKU or something like that, hollow body frog. So with this frog, a little bit longer body than most of your other frogs out there, but what's cool about it, I mean, it does have the single tail. Since it is longer, this thing has got crazy walking action. So it walks super easily, very little effort to get this thing to dart side to side, and you're gonna get a little bit more glide out of it side to side. And another thing that I did notice out of the package is, first off, on the bottom, they put that weight right up there against the shank of the hook. So there's less stuff back here, in the bend of the hooks to kind of impede that hook set. Really like the weight placement on there. And then the back of it, what I noticed is that the back comes up and then it slants down when you get to the hook points. And what that's going to do, I mean, it's going to keep a perfectly weedless profile, but there's just less material that has to collapse back here when the fish strikes. So it's just easier for that body to get out of the way and expose those hook points and give you a great wide gap on there to get great hook penetration and keep those fish pinned. On the bottom, you can also add a treble or a blade if you want to. If you're fishing really open water, if you're just throwing this stuff around hard cover and not really fishing it over the top of mats or anything, you can add some stuff on there on the bottom to kind of increase your hookup ratio. Especially if you got small fish, pond fish that come up and swipe at the bait and they're not big enough to really get a hold of a big frog like this, that could be a great option. And then add a blade, add a little bit of flash. Whatever you want to do, just gives you a few more options to customize. Another great topwater, another great time to be throwing this style of topwater too, is from Heddon. We got the new spinning image. So this came out of ICAST, and there's a bunch of these flopping style topwaters out on the market, and it's always good to have another one in your arsenal. This one, it's made to be a little bit more subtle, so not as loud, a little bit more quiet, which, when there's pressured fish, that's always a key. But if you've ever fished this style of bait, you know that there's times when there's a certain pitch that the fish really key in on. So sometimes they could want that really, really loud, aggressive whopper plopper. Sometimes they want something with that small tin blade that's a little bit quieter. This is going to give you something a little bit quieter just to add into your arsenal that you can change up your different sounds with. So if you want to add a little bit a different tone to your topwater arsenal, if you fish a lot of these plopping style baits, definitely want to check that one out. It's got a little hole in the tail there too, so it's going to create like quite a bit of bubble trail, but made to be a little bit softer, a little bit quieter than some of the other ploppers out there on the market. Next up from Raid Japan, we got this. I think it's the G-Dash bluegill Swimbait. What's cool about this bait, I mean, these Raid Japan baits look insane. I mean, the photo finishes they put on these things, it's got such a realistic finish. It looks just like a bluegill, but not only is the color super good on it, I mean, the finish is highly realistic, but the overall shape and profile looks just like a small gill. This is a floating bait, and it does have a small line tie right there below the chin, so you can add a weight to it to kind of get it to slow sink, or you can beef up your trebles or your split rings, add little weights to the bottom if you wanted to change your sink rate. What's great about this bait, it's balanced in a way and it stabilizes itself. As you can see back here on the side, it's got these little extra stabilizing fins right here on the back of the tail. So you can absolutely burn this thing without any problems, which is great. But you know, it's hard to get a bait that you can really fish at that speed without having any problems. They've done it with this bait, but then it also works really well on a slow retrieve. But you can also do just about anything you want with it. You can burn it and kill it. You can hard snap it and twitch it, and it'll turn and it'll dart off to the side. So, you know, not going to have that big, wide swimming action if you're just reeling it with the multiple joints on there. It's going to be a tighter, more natural swim action. Got the soft tail on there, and they put an extra tail in the package. So if a fish tears up the tail or, you know, you damage it yourself, it comes with a replacement tail included. And then some super, super sharp gray Teflon coated hooks on there. But overall, really cool, just small bluegill profile swim bait. You know, it's, you know, not crazy heavy. It can't weigh more than an ounce or two, and it's not gonna. You don't need a specialized equipment and an extra heavy swim bait rod and 25-pound to throw this thing. So really cool swim bait there from Raid Japan. Next one from Lucky Craft, the new Bevy Pencil 60. So it's cool that Lucky Craft is bringing more and more of these smaller style baits to the market. A lot of them were developed for trout fishing, but people are finding them highly effective on their bait finesse gear for pressured bass and just having fun. When you're throwing small stuff like this, you're going to catch numbers, and then you're going to catch variety of species as well. So this is really cool. It comes in multiple colors. Only weighs 1/8 of an ounce, so you better have a bait finesse setup or a spinning rod to throw this. You're not going to throw this little pencil walker on your normal topwater bait. Kind of coming up, relatively soon here in the fall, the fish seem to get on that really small young of the year bait, and the smaller profile seems to shine a lot more than the bigger profile baits, specifically coming up that time of the year. I'm going to talk about a whole lineup of jigs, actually. This is from Hags, and this is the Hags Tsunami series of jigs. And one thing I want to state, it's kind of the same across the whole board, is these are all tungsten jigs. And what's great about these is these are high quality premium jigs at a phenomenal price point. Depending on the size, they range anywhere from like $3.99 to a little over $5, depending on if you're getting like a 1/4 ounce or a 1/2 ounce or whatever size. So they got multiple options, kind of got you covered for everything. So they got a swim jig. And another cool thing that's across the entire lineup of jigs is they all have hand-tied skirts, and they have a mixture of like premium silicone on there and living rubber, so really, really high quality skirts. And then they all come with mustad hooks on them. So they got a swim jig, they got a football jig, a bunch of really cool colors, and then they have one that they're kind of calling their all-around jig. And this is going to be your kind of flipping, pitching, skipping docks, throwing into brush piles, dragging across the bottom. You kind of do anything with this jig. It's kind of a modified Arky style head, vertical line tie. The weed guard is not crazy thick like a flipping style jig, just your perfect all-around jig like the name says. Nice keepers on them to hold those trailers in place really, really well. The last one we're going to point out from them is their micro jig. So their micro jig is built on a football style head. So this is great for throwing around chunk rock, dragging across structure, but when you need that really small finesse profile, it does come with a full-size skirt, but for sure always you can trim that skirt up, no problem. Spider cut it, making a really finesse jig. But one thing that's different about this one than the other ones is this one comes with a BKK hook in it. So it comes with a BKK hook. It's got a nice, it's got the wire keeper and some barbs here molded onto the shank, but just a phenomenal finesse jig for when it gets tough. Put your favorite little craw trailer on there, and this thing will for sure get you bites when nothing else can. The last thing from Hags is their new their tungsten swing head. Myself, I'm a swing head enthusiast. I love fishing wobble heads. There's just so many different things you can do with them, and things that a lot of people don't even try. I kind of fish them as a hybrid between like a Texas rig and a standard, like football jig. They're all different kinds of baits on them. But now there's a new tungsten option for you with nice EWG wide gap hook. Got a nice kind of a Z bend in there. It's more aggressive than some of your regular EWG style hooks, so it holds those trailers on there really good. But they've got a bunch of different hook options and weight options. So I believe most of them are 3/0 and 5/0, depending on the size. So you can get, you know, heavier weight, smaller hook, bigger hook, whatever you want, they got it in this new swing head. And now a tungsten option, which is smaller profile, more sensitivity, all the benefits of tungsten. From Basstrix, we got this new swinging underspin head. So, so the head up here, really lifelike, really detailed. We only got it in the lead color. But one thing I wanted to point out is down here below the head, we actually got double ball bearing swivels. So there's one embedded into the head itself and one connected to the blade. So your blade is going to spin all the time. You're never going to have any problems with that blade fouling up and not spinning. But again, with that free swinging design, something that you don't really see too much in underspins or swimbait heads, you can put your favorite swimbait on there, and now your swimbait has just got that, you know, bigger range of motion to kind of move around. And not only is your swimbait going to be able to move around a little bit more, and it can roll side to side, but with that EWG hook on there, now you have a completely weedless profile, which I think is really cool. Just adding, you know, giving yourself kind of the flash and the extra vibration of underspin, and something that you can fish through just about anything with that EWG style hook. So really cool underspin head there from Basstrix. From Zoom, the last bait we got is a new cross craw. And when I saw this one, you know, it's kind of nostalgic for me. I have an entire box of, a 3,700 box of hand poured craws that look exactly like this that my grandpa poured from way, way, way back in the day. So it's cool that Zoom is bringing back that kind of old school design. So for the old school anglers that, you know, like these old style, you know, they look like the old hand pours that you buy, that you get out of the bulk bins at tackle shops. Zoom is bringing that style back. You know, a million things you can do with this. You can throw it on a jig, you can throw it on a shaky head, you can put it on a Carolina rig, put it on your split shot rig, whatever you want to do, a bunch of things you can do with that little craw bait. And they've got some just old school, you know, classic colors in it. So old school style craw bait back on the market from Zoom. And last up, new series of rods from SPRO. So this is the SPRO Bronzeye frog rod. So they came out with a whole series of rods. These are designed by Dean Rojas. A whole series of frog rods for the SPRO frogs, but you can use it for any frog that you got in your tackle box. So there's 3 sizes, and they're kind of modeled them for fishing the different size of SPRO frogs. So they got a 7-foot medium heavy that's really, you know, made for the smaller SPRO frogs. And then this one is the 7.4 heavy, I believe, and this is the King Daddy one. So if you want the one with the most power for, you know, fishing the bigger frogs and fishing, maybe you just want the heavier frog rod for fishing heavy mats, King Daddy, the 7.4 is going to be the one you want to go with. And one thing I will note about this entire frog lineup, the actions on them, they do have really fast tips on them, especially in the two smaller models. So they do have that nice, really soft, really fast tip, you know, that first foot and a half of the rod, which makes it's really efficient. It makes it a lot more simple to cast and work your frogs with that just soft tip on the end of the rod. But they transition into super sturdy backbones. So on all these rods, you know, when you get into the meat of the rod, they have a ton of power. And they're not broomstick style rods though. They're not built like flipping sticks. They're a little bit different because a lot of frog rods on the market, they're just, you know, that's exactly what they are. They're 7.3 to 7.6 broomstick style rods made for fishing a frog on a heavy mat. And these are built a little bit differently and going to make it easier for fishing a frog, you know, around dock pilings, through weeds and around lily pads, and just being able to work the bait and not wear yourself out with a big, you know, 7.6 broomstick of a rod. Shorter handles on them, so they make it easier to kind of work the frog. Just really cool frog rods. If you're looking for something that's specifically tuned for frog fishing, SPRO just got these in. They came out of iCast, and we just got them into stock right now. You can buy them right now at tacklewarehouse.com. That's going to wrap up today's episode of What's New at Tackle Warehouse. If you want to check any of these out, you want more details, you want to purchase any of these, make sure to head on over to tacklewarehouse.com. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel. Let us know in the comments which one of these products you're most pumped about, what you're excited to see this week, and we'll catch you guys next week.